China has been under construction and they are continuing to be under construction. They are in build mode. Interesting thing that came out, China's building a massive military city command center that's 10 times bigger than the Pentagon. It's about 20 miles southwest of Beijing. And on a previous episode, we talked about some of the construction going on south of Beijing, and some of the satellite imagery from the US officials suggest the facility, which is referred to informally as Beijing Military City, spans 1,500 acres. So massive. And just to put in some context, if you spend any time in China, especially in the larger cities, I went to Shenzhen about 8 years ago for their largest trade conference, the Canton Fair. And I started walking around. When you go to the Canton Fair, if you've never been there, and you start walking around this trade show, you quickly put it in scale to like the largest city in the US, and you realize you're like, wow, this building is no joke, 10 times larger than like a football stadium in the US, which are typically the largest buildings in a city, or these football stadiums. And I remember walking around. It's just the scale of what's going on in China is so crazy. It's hard to put it in context. So think about the Pentagon, large building. This is going to be 10 times bigger. It's the same sort of thing going on at a military level that has been going on the commercial level when they build trade fairs or convention centers. They're 10 times bigger than the largest convention center in the US. So I'm interested, Cody, in your take on this. Why should people care about this? What's interesting to you about this new military city that is being built?
So there's a quote, and I'm going to butcher the quote, but it basically says something like, democracy gets in the way of progress. And when you look at China, whatever you want to call it, some people say it's more capitalist than the US, which I think may be accurate, but it's certainly run by a centralized group of people. Of course, Xi Jinping at the top. And they get things done. When they say we're going to do something, they can have these mega projects that get done. And this is something that the Chinese civilization has done over millennia. I mean, look at the Great Wall of China or any of the, historical artifacts in that country. It's like, how did they do this? And I think this is one of those examples in modern times. The Pentagon is huge, and this thing's 10 times bigger than the Pentagon. Like, I can't wrap my head around that. 1,500 acres, if anybody's out there who's ever walked like a ranch, you walk like a 500-acre ranch, walk the perimeter, like that takes you a while. That takes you a long time. 1,500 acres. This thing is like, it's hard to imagine. So
they have 100 cranes operating at the site.
The skyscraper cranes, like the big tower cranes, not the on the back of a truck crane. 100 of those cranes. And the other thing that I thought was interesting from the analyst said, the expansion aligns with broader goals set by Chinese President Jinping, who has called for a fully modernized military by 2027, the centenary of the PLA. That's Xi.
So that timeline, the 100, is that the 100 centenary? Does that mean the 100th anniversary?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. 2027, it's 100th anniversary. That timeline has fueled concerns among Western analysts about potential Chinese military actions, particularly regarding Taiwan. So there's a bunch of US military generals who have argued that if China would make a move on Taiwan, it would not be any time before 2027. So the fact that they're predicting this building is going to be done by 2027, of course, conveniently aligns with the date. I don't necessarily think it correlates with Taiwan. I just think it shows that China's taking a more serious approach to developing their military. And the other thing I think is interesting is that this is one location, right? This is one huge facility. So they're clearly developing a lot of high tech, whether it's espionage, AI, whatever it is, it's in one area. So they're clearly prioritizing some military strategy for the future that has to do with developing intel and operations in this one center. Long story short, China ain't fucking around. They're building stuff and they're getting serious.